welcome. It's what is it? 8 minutes past 6 o'clock, April 8th. Let me briefly explain the approval and confirmation process that the Wyndham Regional goes through.
Round of intro.
Okay, yeah, let's go around again.
You know who we are. Now you tell us who you are.
Mark Ethier. It's my first year as a commissioner, so I'm new to this. So.
Right.
I'm Sue Fillion, staff, and I know this process well.
I'm Liz McLaughlin. I'm the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission.
Carolina Oleksu, and probably this is my maybe 5th year on the commission.
Timberly Hund, Planning Commission, and Wyndham Regional Commission also.
Well, you're our rep. Cool.
And I'm Rod Francis. I'm the Planning Director, and I've been through this before too.
I haven't been through this before, but I am a planner.
Yeah, you'll have to bear with me. I've not chaired one of these, but I've been to about 5 of them, I guess, been involved in various town plans, and I was actually, I helped write the original Brookline town plan, so I've had a little exposure.
Well, you're among friends.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll go through a brief explanation of the process. This is the statutory requirements of 24 VSA 4350B. Wyndham Regional is required to hold a public hearing. We must make findings that the plan, that your town plan is consistent with state planning goals listed in 24 VSA 4302. And we must also find that it is compatible with the regional plan, the WRC regional plan. We must also find that it is compatible with approved plans of other municipalities in the region. And finally, we have to find that it contains required elements of a town plan that are listed in 24 VSA section 4382. Simply, the process that we go through is we form a peer review panel amongst Wyndham Regional Commissioners, and that's 3 people with 1 chair. And we all review the plan, and through either a series of meetings or emails, we have one big meeting and reviewed together all of our feelings about the plan or findings and about in terms of those criteria that I mentioned above. And John kind of leads us through that, of course. And then the peer review panel, again, which I am the chair, submits the findings and recommendations to the Wyndham Regional Planning Coordination Committee.
That's not you?
No, that's a standing committee. That, John, your staff for that committee?
Staff that committee.
Yeah. And for every town plan, there's a group of 3 that reviews and then does the findings and gives that to the, what's it called, John? The PCC, the Planning Coordination Committee. And that committee reviews the findings, submits them to the whole Wyndham Regional Commission, and the full commission, which meets monthly, votes to approve the town plan at that point or not.
So none of this process has begun yet. You're just here to inform us of.
No, we're partway through.
You're partway through.
Partway through.
Oh, okay.
The peer review committee has all reviewed the plan, and we've all submitted our findings in meetings with John. And John has written up kind of a draft at this point of all of our findings. And we'll discuss it briefly, but the point of today's meeting, I believe, is just to accept testimony, explain the process.
Explain the process to you guys, hear anything that you want to present about the plan to us in the terms of what you've accomplished, the process by which you accomplished it. If any of the public cares to weigh in, we're here to take testimony.
So allow me to read the official public hearing notice for the camera. Wyndham Regional Commission will hold a public hearing on Monday, April 8th, 2013 at 6 p.m. at the Brattleboro Town Office, 230 Main Street, second floor, Select Board Room, Brattleboro, Vermont, to consider the request of the Town of Brattleboro for approval of its town plan as provided by 24 VSA Section 4350B. The Wyndham Regional Commission will consider whether the town plan is consistent with the Vermont planning goals, compatible with the Wyndham Regional Plan, compatible with the approved plans of other towns in the region, and contains all the elements and statements provided by the Planning Act. A public hearing will also be held to consult with the Town of Brattleboro and consider the confirmation of the town's planning process as provided by 24 VSA Section 4350A. The WRC will hear all comments relevant to its review of the town's plan and planning process at the public hearing. That's by Chris Campany, Executive Director of the Wyndham Regional Commission.
So that went out as a public notice?
Correct. Yep.
Went to the adjoining towns, it went to the newspaper, it was posted.
So at this point, I'll invite the Planning Commission to kind of present your plan. Tell us whatever you want about it. You're then officially request approval, and you're welcome to explain the process, the highlights of the plan, the process of developing it, anything you want to enter into testimony.
I'm kind of the opinion that I wouldn't want to venture to give any testimony until I find out whether or not people had an issue with any aspects of the plan. Otherwise, I really don't think it warrants it. I mean, it's a really good plan, and we worked very hard on it.
It's great.
It's great for many, for a long time.
Yeah, the panel thought it was an excellent plan.
Well, there you go.
And, yeah.
Hooray, phew.
A huge step forward, we thought. And again, we're peer, not experts, but we all felt like we were schooled in town plan writing to read it, so it was good. we had
We're here to help.
We had, yeah. Would you write my? But we did have some comments and things that we thought areas for improvement, areas that we thought were really great, and so we.
Good.
Does anyone else on the commission want to say anything in testimony about the plan while we have the opportunity?
There's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean,
Looks like it.
I don't think
Carolina's
until we...
been at it for years.
Yeah, the longest of you guys. I just feel like we did a really comprehensive job, and I would really love to just hear the peer review and the feedback from you guys, because that would also just be helpful for us for the future, too.
Good.
Places where we not enough or need more or clarification or whatever, but
And
according to statute or whatever other criteria you judge it by that maybe we missed.
I'm happy to give a little nutshell.
Yeah, that would be great.
well, before we go any further, we are very indebted to our staff, and obviously couldn't have done anything without them.
Yeah,
That's really nice of you to say that.
ditto.
No, I was just going to say, I think other town boards and just even other people in the community really stepped up to kind of help, get public input. So Conservation Commission, the Arts Committee,
Energy Committee.
I think that was really useful. It was definitely, in the introduction, it was a long process, but it wasn't necessarily always the Planning Commission working on it either. In the beginning steps, it was the Town Plan Advisory Group kind of sifting through information. So that was really helpful to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I was impressed with the amount of public input you had in different creative ways, the visioning and this has been, a 5-year process? Something like that?
Great.
3 years?
3. 4 maybe.
Moving into 4, but yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like fun.
Yeah. It just feels that way. John, you
I'm
want
going
to?
to take off my sunglasses, so forgive me for squinting. Let me first say, staff does a review just to assessment of the presence or lack thereof of required elements. And of course, everyone was there. It was a very competent job of addressing the state's goals and including all the required elements.
That was a process to learn about all of those, too.
Well,
And I mean, that was one of the things we did way back in the beginning, and at first it felt very overwhelming, but then it sort of just fell into place afterwards, you know? I don't know.
Well, kudos to whoever organized things, because each element here summarizes the statutory requirements of the element and then addresses them. So it's all very nicely organized
Yeah.
and well done. So
Ms. Fillion over there,
Came from TPAG as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Those are
So-
good.
in the early days.
There was a
Yeah.
choice about structure from that, so, yeah.
And they did a lot of research into looking at other towns, not just in this state, but in other places, which was, I went to, attended a couple of their meetings and spoke with some of them on the side, and it was really exciting, the kind of work they were doing, and bringing that information together and brainstorming it and having some really interesting conversations that, you know, where they didn't always agree, but, you know, really got juicy, and I thought it was great.
that is wonderful. I will be very brief because I have some 6 or 8 pages of notes that I then tried to sugar off to a few bullet points. And of course, you lose stuff in the process, one of which I realized this afternoon, my goodness, did not mention. There are a number of great things about the plan, including sort of outside the statutorily required box of stuff. So the whole elements on arts and culture chapter and the agriculture chapter in particular were above and beyond what the statute requires, and it was great to see, recognizing how important both are. So that was a wonderful thing. Something that didn't get into the notes, and I've been kicking myself, and Brad doesn't even know this one, but he will now, is that there's a great deal of discussion about the importance of addressing flood hazards fully, not just inundation hazards, but also fluvial erosion hazards, which if we ever needed an object lesson, Tropical Storm Irene gave us in spades.
And that seems like a challenging air issue to address amongst the townsfolk.
It's
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so it's
And we
wonderful to
got
see
it.
it articulated in the plan.
We got a window on that discussion in the select board review.
I imagine.
There will be more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got the window earlier on because, I mean, you must be aware that we did try to pass fluvial erosion.
You had it in
So-
place as an interim.
I know, and it just, I'd say, you know, just those few voices that, all it takes is a few loud voices, and it was unfortunate. But I think there's been, since then, I think there's been a lot of education of people in the community. Maybe not enough yet, and it needs to be more, but
Continuing the process.
yeah.
That's
But I was at some, and I think, again, I keep forgetting that guy's name. You remind me. He just these somebody from the
From the state.
state came and did a thing in West Brattleboro, and his presentation was very excellent, and I think people got a different picture. Todd, was his name Todd?
Todd.
Denise,
Todd Manise.
Yes. He was
stream
excellent.
alteration engineer for the state.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And
at one of the commission meetings, too. Yeah, it was very...
he talked really like, how do you create some zoning that's equitable to all parties, you know, and you know, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. You've got landowners, and yet you've got to protect, you know, you've got lots of things there. So he was good.
Complicated science going on, too.
Yep.
We're learning about it still.
Right.
So do you think, so you said importance in discussing, do you feel like we need more in our plan about that, or?
I think that my read of it was that the plan provided adequate discussion for, the ultimate objective is to actually enact something. And so the language in the plan lays the adequate groundwork for the town
Okay.
to say,
Good.
our zoning should be in conformance with our plan. Our plan says we should address fluvial erosion hazard as well as inundation hazard. So therefore, we should move forward with the FEHs that the state has the data, has the ability to generate the maps for much of Whetstone and Crosby. So there are other streams of lesser magnitude and lesser impact that it can also be developed for and applied to, but the data isn't available on those other streams because how we get the data is by, not to get too far in the weeds, but it's been a process, collaborative process of the town working with Wyndham Regional Commission and the Conservation District to get grants to do stream geomorphic assessment work, which generates the data from which you can make the FEH maps, which you need.
I think we were lucky because we had a little wake-up call in 2005, which then plugged that process in, and we got that working for the Whetstone anyways, to do that geomorphic study.
And the state was gung-ho to help with that.
Yeah, they were excellent.
Anyway, so not to spend too long on that. The comments generally boil down to the plan includes all statutorily required elements and addresses the state's planning goals. It's a good plan which reads well, is navigable and thorough. The review panel specifically noted the use of text boxes, providing useful information.
Yeah, even more.
And then the comments provided below are offered for possible consideration and preparation of future updates of the plan. Strengths, the natural resource element addresses most natural resources quite well. The plan includes good information about bicycle and pedestrian facilities and planning therefore. It's commendable that the plan includes a chapter on arts and culture, and the implementation chapter includes a very impressive and useful matrix.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite a matrix.
It's already been used as an example for other towns
Really?
on their plans.
I think they're going to make a movie about it, too.
Yeah.
Liz will sign autographs later.
Now, the next category would be weaknesses, and I hate to use that term, but I can't think of a better one. And some of this is pretty specific stuff. It would be helpful to explain the meanings of the C and S notations in Table 2.1. That's where data is either confidential or suppressed in the employment table because there are so few businesses in the particular fields. There were a number of instances when the review panel was considering the plan where there had to be a planner interpreter for the plan because the C and the S, I knew exactly what they were because I've grappled with that on other plans.
That's the kind of thing
The
the
lay
peer
person
people kind of
didn't have a clue.
I think that at some point we had text in the chapter
Let's see,
actually
yes.
explaining that confidential and
Confidential or
suppressed
suppressed.
were attributes in that table. It may, at some point, the text may not have survived.
Yeah.
It would certainly
At
look
some
like
point earlier on,
something
we
that
had a
was-
discussion of that.
looked like heavy going, it wasn't really necessary. I know how that
Because
works.
We could footnote
we
that.
could
It's not
footnote
too late
that.
to footnote
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some effort to explain it. So if it's not there anymore, then because I can remember writing it and
It
sort
was
of
subject.
being subjected to fierce questioning on it because
Why are you?
people wanted to say
why is it suppressed?
they wanted to say strong things about two industries, and I'm sort of like, don't think
Oh,
you
right,
can say
right,
that.
right.
Remember that? And then they're like, well, go on, just say it. I'm like, I don't think so.
Probably not a good idea.
Limitations of the data.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
And then the next comment was, the review panel found table 3.3 difficult to comprehend. That's the one on the energy,
yes.
relative energy uses and improvements. And while everyone applauded the massive improvements overall, there were questions about the real meaning of the table in terms of
Okay.
the Canal Street School, everyone's scratching their head. What happened there? And I guess
Well, it wasn't used in 2000.
Well, that was what
yeah.
we-
It's a
That
trip.
was what
It's a
we
trip on the data
suspected.
era.
Yeah.
It was
Maybe we need a
reconstructed
footnote to
after that
explain.
point, and so it's gone back into use.
we
So it's just
were
that,
speculating that
Yeah.
was exactly it, because
Yeah.
having read the education,
Actually, we can put a footnote for that too.
someplace that
Yeah. I know their
that it
windows
was
have
being
been
used
weatherized.
now for like Head Start or early
Yeah.
childcare or some
Right.
such thing. We speculated, but we thought we were
Yeah.
venturing into the realms of speculation.
so it's the Head Start site, and it wasn't in use
And
at
it
the
was
beginning of the
also-
data period, and then
Yeah.
it's the
And
after us
Kava,
childcare.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the numbers are impressive.
But yeah,
Energy
Uh,
saving.
it may be more a comment on how bad things were before rather than how bad things are now. Just to say, put it in perspective. It's like,
But you can go right ahead and be impressed.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that you feel that
People
way.
should see this stuff.
people were
Yeah.
impressed.
Right.
about it.
We are also freezing to death, but that's apart from that.
Not here, office.
That's
The
right.
sign says
That's
the air
right.
conditioner's on.
And you walk in and it's a heat wave, right?
Yeah, right. We've achieved maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
Everyone's frozen.
Is that right? Anyway.
Final comment in this category was that the agriculture chapter, while it's wonderful that there is one, and there is no requirement for there to be one, it could be stronger in promoting agriculture in Brattleboro. And it should address promoting sound ag management practices. That's a twofer on
Okay.
that bullet. And by the way, I'll be very happy to sit down with planning staff and any commissioners that want to and go through my 8 pages of notes that's all sugared off down to these few bullet points.
Okay.
Because we did catch a typo or two here or
Oh,
there.
cool. Okay, yeah. Pass those on.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's bunches.
Anyway, opportunities. While it's commendable to identify and promote conservation of agricultural land, the plan would be stronger if it addressed taking action to make farming a viable economic activity.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. But consider how it might be. That's a half a page of notes right there, but working to try to connect with, food to school, all sorts of
Could I just,
support for various different ag support.
I think our ag committee
Businesses and
meets sort of on an as-needed basis or something, and it's always just been my personal feeling that they need to meet regularly, and it needs to be more, that it's always just been farmers, and I really feel like it needs to include people from like post-oil solutions and farm-to-school programs and farmers market people, and so that, because agriculture is really, could be in rural areas like this a new economic engine, and we do acknowledge that, but I think I also agree that the plan is a little weak in that area,
To do more.
and yet it wasn't required, so
You had a good figure that described all those stakeholders.
Right.
yes, it was there. I don't know if that was what you were
Yeah.
sort of getting at.
Yep, absolutely. That was really,
Because when those kind of discussions happen on a commission, it makes action. I mean, action can happen.
absolutely. And I don't know that I should name names. It's a commissioner who's part of the panel who's not present here tonight, who particularly felt particularly strongly about this issue.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to
Okay, that'd be great.
convey.
Let me just ask kind of a process question of Rod and Sue. Where are we? I mean, can we make these changes? So choose.
Yeah,
What
we haven't
happened?
we haven't adopted the plan with the existing text. We could make minor changes, so something like the footnotes
For Claire, that would
for
be okay.
clarification. That's fine, but I think actually
Correcting typos.
adding to or correcting
Substance.
or adding to or somehow changing
That's
the
kind of
text
a
in a more
shame in the
fundamental
way
way.
that-
Because it's already been
Yeah.
through the public
Well,
We
process.
could have, I mean, we could have activated it earlier and gotten comments that we then could
Right.
have worked on. I mean, when a regional commission does allow.
But you did say some of this is for feedback for next time, too,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
yeah.
I just wanted to.
No, and no reason that you can't start working on any of these suggestions long before you start working on the
Yeah, there is a
next plan.
reason.
There's a couple.
We need a little break.
The planning commission and site activity of the area.
Yeah, right. We'll put this post-it note on the fridge as soon as you're done.
All right.
We don't mean to be so.
That's all right. I can imagine how punchy you must be after
Yeah.
this rather lengthy and rather
Yeah.
involved process.
That's nice to go back to zoning.
Yeah. Imagine how bad it is. We can't wait to do the zoning.
Indeed. One comment I thought was interesting. The plan might address long-term parking in a future update.
To make I think one of the panel members thought to make the train
The train
more viable for people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were asking
We have a
me,
transportation.
where can you park long-term if you want to?
There are actually
Term there. We were wondering.
there are designated spaces in the parking structure,
That was
and
my guess.
then you show your rail ticket to the parking personnel, and they'll give you a pass that you put on the dash of your car, and you can leave it there long term. And it's
I did not even know that.
Yeah, really, I don't think people know that.
It's
for
free
free.
to do that if you have a rail ticket?
I think actually it's free.
Wow.
I'm just going
Oh,
to drive my
good
car 2
comment.
blocks. Just
Yeah.
You do need to show the railroad ticket. Okay.
So if you were to take, say I wanted to go to Washington DC for a week, I could drive and leave my car
and catch the train, yeah.
and leave my car there.
It
So I
takes a
would.
week to get to Washington DC and back. You
I
have
know,
time for lunch.
But
in
anyway,
DC, but-
yeah, bad
Um,
example, bad
Yeah,
example.
right. No,
Better to
it's a
go
good
to.
example of exactly how long it
Yes.
takes.
Well, you can go to Springfield and do it quicker.
It
Yeah.
only takes 10 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
But it will only take 6 once they finish fixing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you can. So that's the way it works. See, there's a,
It's not just for incoming; it's for
Yeah, that's
outgoing
cool.
people also.
yep.
That's cool.
A lot of people take the train up to Burlington.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
No, I used to
So this should be
Great.
Final comment I want
put that in.
put out for opportunities was that the energy chapter could provide discussion of the importance of land use patterns. There's excellent discussion about the importance of land use patterns in transportation and in land use, but actually the statute kind of talks about it in the provisions for an energy element also.
Okay.
We tried to avoid
Repetition.
repeating.
Right.
But in fact, if you just had a reference for discussion of the importance of land use planning on energy, please see transportation and land use chapters or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Is that something that we could add in?
That's a cross-reference that we could insert. Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's not that you don't address it, because,
Right.
by the way, and none of these comments get to what an excellent land use element you've got, and what a wonderful future land use plan it is compared to what's been in the past, so,
Right.
For our town.
yeah.
Oh, wow, thank you.
So,
There was a long time on that, too.
well, it's,
And that was also one of probably the most controversial, too.
I imagine it was, but it's wonderful to see, and it certainly, for example, the future land use map in particular, if you look at that, and look at what exists in Marlboro and Newfane and Marlboro and Dummerston in particular, they have interests in that corner of the world, so all in all, wonderful.
So will your comments also be sent directly to the select board?
We can certainly, yes, we can certainly do that.
That would be nice, thank you.
Yeah, as a
Yeah,
courtesy.
that would be good.
The chairperson might be most appropriate.
Absolutely, that's
Yes.
the one that would be addressed.
Okay.
That's
And
good.
then
You
we
might want to use a
share.
really big font or something like
Absolutely. We can make this into 10 or 12 pages.
that. Some explanatory pictures would also probably be helpful.
Yes, pictures.
All right, so that's a quick, very quick summary of
Wow.
our perspective on your plan. Excellent job.
Nice work.
Kudos to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was a short list of what you called weaknesses or opportunities.
Well, John does have 8 pages.
Yeah, he's got more. It's just not, yeah. So,
Oh.
do you want
Duh.
to? Are they handwritten, John, or
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to just? Okay. So, you can, or do you have a mock-up version of the plan that you want to give us at some point?
I do have a marked-up version of the plan.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That has, for example, typos are
Yeah.
noted and references.
Yeah, great. That's excellent.
I can leave this with you if
Yeah.
I can take a clean copy
Sure.
away.
Yep.
And then I have,
Is this a good one to swap it out with?
Is it the same date?
Let me check.
There was no changes made after the 19th.
Yeah, it's the same
but
day.
it might just, we could just switch the colors.
Yep. That's it.
I like John's use of the term sugaring off. I think it should be voted as
It's a bit local, yeah.
vernacular.
Great.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
So I'm happy to interpret as well.
Yeah, I'll give you a yell if there's something in here that we can't figure out. That's good.
But,
That's excellent. Thank you.
and I didn't catch everything, but
No, well, I think for typo things, it's going to be like something that bubbles up all the time.
perpetual.
Well, it speaks to the quality of the plan that the three of us went one page at a time, and just, the best we could find is typos.
Wow, thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, we did notice a pagination discrepancy between versions. In other words, that plan
Oh, yeah.
had up to page 64, and then I think there was a second page 64. So
Yeah.
But
Well, I think you might,
there, I had an earlier version.
he had a copy that was earlier than what we had, so
Yeah.
the pages
Right.
didn't line up
it was
exactly.
kind of wacky putting it together. I mean, I don't know if you know this, Brad. We did tell John that we actually are having it. We're working with a designer, so while this is approved, it's
Oh, I did
going to
not
be in a nice
bring it up
layout.
because we had questions about the
Yeah.
formatting, the
Yeah.
screen grabs and stuff, and
Yeah.
legibility.
All that's going to be rectified in the...
And even the maps will be.
Yeah.
The maps were backward from what I'm used to. Like, when I read maps, you go like, this is
Oh,
slightly
yeah.
merged.
Yes.
These are, the
Holding
spine
the
is
page
at
the other-
bottom.
yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
standard is to.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
you're right.
Yeah, you
They
are
were
right.
all,
Yeah.
We'll have that around the right way. So ultimately, because it's going to depend so much on color reproduction, it's going to actually be sort of mounted as a PDF document more than anything else. And then the distribution will be thumb drives and a limited run of actually printed copies. Yeah. And so then on the website as well. So, yeah.
Look at this one in that copy.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different.
Well, like the N in transportation is over here on the second row.
Yes, right. Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, well, yeah.
Snag it.
is that
So-
Hawk that's doing the design?
No.
No.
He was a
No, that was
consultant that
We did that diagram. We're using somebody who has a small design business in Bellows Falls, so we're very excited. It's gonna be
Great.
good. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well, we should
Okay.
solicit public
Any
input.
public input, folks?
I think they're all done.
No? Okay.
I think we had a few people who we kind of called the adjunct planning commissioners
Yeah.
because they came to so many meetings on a regular basis, but
More them out.
Yep.
So
Okay.
if anyone has public comments, do they get them to you?
They
Something
can
like that?
provide
They
them
they
to
can
us.
provide them directly
Okay, that's great.
to John.
To him.
I'll pass them on to John. Then. So you're going to summarize, is this, what you just gave Rod is, you're still going to summarize a document that you're going to give to the,
I'm going to work with the planning commission on further notes, stuff that's more in the weeds than we need to get into
Okay.
right
Yeah.
now.
all right.
Great.
Reference table number 11.5 instead of 11.1.
Okay, that's great.
Most of it's in there, some of it's in these notes.
All right.
That didn't get
Kind
in
of
there.
editing in a way.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I was an English teacher in a former lifetime, so.
Well, we're lucky to have you.
Yeah.
You and
So you
your
pay
plan.
the price.
Okay.
All right, so you can
Okay.
adjourn the hearing.
I guess, no further comments at this point? Well, thanks for your work, and I'll adjourn this portion of the meeting.
Great,
so much.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's for you.
I've got 6:44 adjourned.
Now, just when you planning commissioners thought it was safe to draw a breath, now we get to do municipal consultation. Hopefully you were apprised of this and perhaps even have a copy of an agenda.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's what that is. That's different.
Really kind of a twofer here this evening, because we've done a lot of discussion about the plan and a lot of the implementation discussion and stuff in agenda items 2 and 3. We have
And excuse myself.
fairly well.
Good to see you, Brett.
Tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye, Brad.
you for your
Yeah.
work.
Nice job. Thank you. Nice job.
So the real gist of what I'm hoping to share with you guys, and you have received the brochures about a couple of our programs, but basically, whether you do or don't know, we have a bunch of different programs. One of the things I would say is if you're ever curious, check our website, wyndhamregional.org, because there's actually a fair bit of information available there. We have a geographic information systems program, community development, transportation, energy, natural resources, project review, hazard mitigation and emergency planning, and town planning programs. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about most of those, but I am going to hit just a few of the highlights. Please stop me if you have questions at any point in time. But the GIS folks, the Geographic Information System, in the past year created a new Brattleboro downtown district map for the renewal application. Developed this report called Undeveloped Waters in Southeastern Vermont, which you might or might not have seen, and if you haven't, we should make a copy available. It's available on our website. You can download it. But basically, we looked at waters in the lower half of the West River watershed and the Deerfield River watershed to identify places where there were undeveloped corridors or buffers along the streams, and then evaluated that in terms of conservation status of the land. Is it something that's already conserved or subject to a conservation easement? Or what is the level of protection argued for in town plans or provided in zoning? So that it kind of highlights where threatened stream corridors are. It's not that big, and if you read it and have questions, you'll be directed to me. So, Jeff Also completed a new town plan map series and updated road maps and base map, and created a new map of voting districts for the town clerk, and maps of street lights for the energy committee, and a map, West River Trail map, and Brattleboro Trail brochure map and text. And what he's got up his sleeve, coming soon to town near you, updated Brattleboro Chamber of Commerce map,
Okay.
and a West River tourism map. So, our community development program works with towns on downtown and village center designations. I guess I need to at some point preface a lot of this with Brattleboro is blessed with a very capable planning staff and is largely self-sufficient. Nonetheless, you can see we actually do work with you and help you out. So,
And they're doubly blessed because they know exactly what the Wyndham Regional Commission does. They utilize the resources.
I was going to say, it actually, when I'm doing these consultations with further flung towns who don't have professional staff, often the select boards are amazed. You really do all that? Wow. All we have to do is call you up and ask you to help us out, and you'll do that? So, forgive me if I kind of hammer on the topic here. So we also have a Brownfields program that does all sorts of stuff from assessment to planning for trying to reuse properties. I don't think I need, well, laundry list includes New England Youth Theater, 118 Elliott Street, the archery building, and the distillery, what used to be Tom and Sally's.
Oh, right. That's a brownfield site?
It had a
Potential
phase
petroleum.
one.
Phase one, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, shouldn't have said anything.
It's all right.
We also have...
I didn't think it was the chocolate.
You'd be surprised.
Lots of chocolate. Oh, that was
Very
awfully good
alcoholic.
chocolate.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Chocolate oil.
I was frankly disappointed when we moved from Harmony Lot out there. But
Yeah, that's right. It's nice.
I would still go get that stuff for special occasions, even if I had to drive to it.
There you go.
It's always fun to get people from out of state, give them little gifts of chocolate meadow muffin kind of things, you know?
That's right.
I would actually get those.
Cow pies, they were
Get
called, I guess.
variety packs of the really good stuff from that bride. Let's see, under community development, we also have managed to try to secure some assistance from flood recovery officers.
They were great.
They would, you know, it's like, I don't know quite how to describe it. It's worse than the dog that caught the car.
Right.
It's like, these guys, well, they have potential to be an asset to the greater community and perhaps even to individual communities if we can get them doing the right things. And Anthony Summers is apparently the Wyndham Region
Yep.
flood recovery officer.
Do people know what this program is? There was funding that was channeled to BDCC and Wyndham Regional to hire
Yeah, we did it jointly with Bennington and
Right.
their
people to specialize in redevelopment activities post Irene. And the intention is that they work with small businesses and communities
Yep.
to maximize a range of programs. And there's funding available to implement various projects. So they've just hired Anthony Summers in the last, I want to say, 3 weeks.
Yep.
Ah, well,
Yeah,
then
so we're
that
not
makes
missing-
sense that we've never heard
Yeah,
of
that's right. We're not
Yeah.
missing out on anything yet, but it's something that we can look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Wilmington and
Wilmington's getting the brunt, the
Yeah,
lion's
the-
share
yeah,
of the
activity right now.
Because they got the brunt of this.
Yeah, really.
somewhat, yeah. So
Um,
I can't remember the budget allocation, it was significant.
It was a big chunk of money to serve the entire southern part of the
Right.
state. Part of the reason I was being a little bit facetious about this effort is that these folks have not yet been the greatest of public relations experts, so that people aren't sure where they're coming from, why they're here. I think they're from FEMA, maybe, which is the
We're from the
last.
government and we're here to
Yeah,
help.
exactly.
Fatigue. I think there's some fatigue around that whole thing.
Yeah, so anyway. So I'm supposed to try and keep this brief, so watch me race through transportation. I-91 signage project,
Okay.
working with V-Trans and the 6 towns along the I-91 corridor regarding new and/or updated signs,
Nice.
considering supplemental guide signs, in other words, specific destinations, rewording of the exit sign.
What's wrong with exit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that confusing for people? Is it please exit?
Exit here. And also working as the local project manager on a sidewalk project from the Gilbert Memorial Bridge on the east side of Main Street to Walnut Street. Attending traffic safety committee meetings. WRC staff role has been to provide technical assistance, everything from traffic counts to governor's highway safety grants, paving and bridge projects, setting speed limits, turning movement counts, traffic calming, yada yada yada. The pedestrian safety committee, working with local motion funding, their staff time to facilitate meetings. Ongoing meetings with the town and V-Trans regarding Putney Road.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Completed the local project manager responsibilities on Union Station project in the fall of 2012. We're continuing to assess the safe route to school activities. Assisted with the parking sign project. Not completed yet. The
I have a
lead
question.
was bad. Yes, ma'am.
I wrote a comment letter to V-Trans about the Putney Road, and it's been rumored that I will not be receiving a response. Is that true?
I don't know.
Maybe you could check on
There
that.
was a summary of the hearing that was sent just today, and I can forward that to you, and it doesn't make mention of your communication with me. I understood that we were to receive a transcript of the hearing, the so-called 502, and that the written testimony that I provided from you and from somebody else would be included in that, but I've not yet seen the transcript. So, they're under an obligation to provide the transcript within 30 days to the select board. But I've not
But
yet seen that.
not provide any responses.
No, according to the engineers that were at the meeting, I think they summarized it as, we're just here to listen. And I said, well, what about a response? And they said, well, that could be different. So,
That's a different team.
which is a whole different concept. You know, they weren't able to actually really address that.
There's
They
my
were in receive mode only. Yeah.
Not as generous as WRC. No, we were
Right,
in
these guys
receive
were
mode
really-
earlier this
right,
evening, but yet we also
They can
shared.
respond.
duly noted.
Right.
Yep. And appreciated.
A couple more bullets under transportation. Work with Amtrak to get additional signage at Union Station.
Yeah.
Are you working with Amtrak to get additional stops at the Brattleboro station?
You mean more trains coming through?
Well, for example, like the train that comes through early in the morning stops at White River Junction and it stops in Springfield, but it doesn't stop in Brattleboro. So you'd have to go to Springfield at like 7 o'clock in the morning
Well, that's right. Yep.
to get the train
I
to
didn't even know
New York.
Amtrak came through other than the twice a day when they do stop
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
I've taken it to Springfield, but you could take it in White River Junction, but I hate going north to go south.
Yeah, there was somebody who was coming here and couldn't get off here, had to go all the way to White River Junction and then
You just
rent
pull
a
the cord down
car.
and make it stop.
Yeah.
That'd be my recommendation.
Different
But
century.
because if that, because if that morning train stopped at Brattleboro,
Yeah.
there could be a hell of a lot more commuting going on.
Yes.
I mean, I wish I'd known that when I get my son to Burlington and back.
Yeah,
He
I
would
get
have
it.
been happy.
Yeah.
More options.
Okay.
The other thing on the train is, I don't know if they've reinstituted bicycles. They used to be able to be riders, could bring their bicycles, because I know a lot of people who do these Sunday bike rides, and they'll do a big loop and end up like in Amherst or something, or
Right.
Northampton, or
Train
wherever
back.
the stop is down there, and then they just put their bikes on the train and train back up.
Right.
And then all the bicycles being allowed on trains or whatever, however they did it,
You split in the guards van, and they don't have a guards van anymore.
and they don't have that. They stopped it, and that would be lovely to have that again. Not that I'm a bicycle in that way, but I know many people have mentioned that.
Let's see, other things. West River Trail meetings, the I-91 Bridge Project, and RSMS, Road Surface Management stuff with
So this sort of stands for. I love it. That's excellent.
with Gary.
Right.
Other stuff we have that I won't get into details on, we have an energy committee. They actually do hope to, intend to resume convening, quasi-regular convenings of energy coordinators and or energy committees. They used to
Oh, that
do
would be great.
We sustained all sorts of budget cuts that kind of necessitated rescission of some of the services we used to provide, but there's move afoot there. We have a natural resources program which was instrumental in working on the grants that did stream geomorphic assessment and corridor plans for Whetstone and Crosby. And even though you don't know it, the Crosby Brook in behind former Beckfords
Yep.
actually had renewed access to floodplain and had some bank stabilization
Yeah, that's
done.
good.
A couple
Yeah.
people know about it, but
Yep.
The
probably-
Conservation Commission.
Commission's
toured
been
it.
involved in that.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, project review. WRC can assist with Act 250, Section 248, and other, like NEPA and FERC and other reviews, especially at the town's request. We have a statutory responsibility to take a look at stuff on a regional basis anyway, and a couple of recent ones where the compressed natural gas dispensing station proposed at Fibermark, and the potential photovoltaic display array, that's display on the side of the interstate.
Right.
But then the technology.
Right.
We have hazard mitigation and emergency planning, which Dinah's happy to help towns with. Towns need to update their basic emergency operations plan every year with new folks after town meeting appointments. And then there's the whole move to single jurisdiction hazard mitigation plans from what used to be appendices in English, known in whatever language it is that FEMA uses, annexes to a regional plan. And then we have a town planning program, which you're looking at, and which can offer assistance, but Brattleboro is endowed with planning staff and is self-sufficient. or largely so.
Yeah. It's just emotionally kind of, eating.
So that's a quick run through. That's a quick run through of our programs that might have been of assistance to you or might be in the future. I have to ask, where might we be able to be of more assistance going forward? And you don't have to. This isn't your final bite at the
Yeah,
apple.
right.
If something occurs to you, please let me know in the future, though I will be submitting a report on this interview to the state.
Oh,
So,
that's right. Well, we put something of a work plan together. I guess the focus for the coming year is the zoning and the subdivision regs. So we're looking at land use issues and
Design issues.
And then I guess flood hazard is also something that we'd be looking for continued technical assistance on in the form of mapping and consultations and support. And then I guess that could come from the state and or the region.
At our last meeting, we had talked about when there is a, what was the example? When there's an issue, if somebody subdivides a piece of land, they need more information, there's all these requirements that they have to put in a plan document in order to be able to subdivide. We had talked about DNR's website, how they have floodplain information, parcel data. There was a way to make that more accessible to people. Maybe if it were, I don't know, easier to find, either town website or your website, so that people
Like a
who don't do
developer
this.
resource packet or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's a great word.
I think the
Yeah.
Biofinder might be
Yeah.
Develop a
pretty helpful
resource
tool.
packet. I like it.
Yeah, there's a new
Checking
tool.
out. We should,
Yeah.
at some point.
It's pretty.
Sue's done the webinar.
Mark did it
Mark's
too.
done it too. So, and I'm about to do it this week. But I think what we might do is put together a brief presentation to the commissioners.
yeah,
on the
I would love
benefits
to
of
have a chance to do the
Biofinder.
webinar. I've only blundered through it on my own, but that is,
It was worth doing.
it's a tremendously
Yeah.
improved resource
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
That's
what
really good.
There's a
A&R
couple
used
of,
to have.
I mean, I can send you the links too, but there's a couple of YouTube videos that you can
Yeah.
watch,
Yeah.
but it was perfectly timed because I
Yeah.
did it Tuesday after Monday's meeting, so.
Yeah. Can you send us the link
Yeah.
to that, to the YouTube video?
Yeah, I'm not in the
Yeah.
office tomorrow, but
Okay.
Yeah.
it's good.
And I think we'll spend some time as a group going over it because it's a good tool.
Yeah. We're talking about conservation subdivisions right
Okay.
now because we're redoing the
Right.
subdivision regs first, so.
Yeah. So and in rough terms, we're starting at the outer edge, the outer western edge, and working our way in.
That seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's done the software update too.
As
It's
opposed to starting in the urban core.
Right. Well,
so
yeah.
clumsy.
It's a good
Yep.
start.
I think the other thing, when we're looking at fluvial erosion and flood mitigation, we got pretty well educated, and we just focused on the whetstone, but when we have to, and that was also one of the criticisms that came, why were we just focusing on one?
Years ago, you mean?
Yes, years ago, no. And that people didn't like that. So we want to be more comprehensive, but there are different needs on different water bodies. Obviously, the Crosby has different kind of flood mitigation things, and I think we're going to need to be educated to those and get, maybe Sue and, I don't know, what, they might have some of this to how to do that, how to lay that out all in one zoning thing, but to differentiate between those three, because we have really the West, the Crosby, and the Whetstone as major, right? Those three, if I got it right?
The West is less of an issue. It's
Yeah.
effectively controlled.
But we do have to include that, don't we?
through-
There's no stream geomorphic on
There's
the
no
list.
stream looking
There's
for it.
only phase one, and you need phase two.
To make, that's where the data comes in. You need to walk it, and that's what phase 2 is. And it's controlled because the Townsend Dam at one end
That's
and
right.
the Vernon Dam at the other.
So does that mean we don't have to include that in that?
No, it means that it's a very low priority for
Yeah.
the A&R to actually spend the time and the
Oh,
money on
yeah.
mapping it. So, because they know it's going to move within a controlled range.
And by the way, just sort of
Yeah.
one very understandable desire to have a comprehensive addressing of all the streams in the town. But thus far, the state has not seen fit to fund stream geomorphic assessment on any kind of comprehensive basis.
No.
What we've been able to accomplish thus far has been because either the Conservation District or Wyndham Regional Commission or the two together have applied for and secured grants to then hire consultants to do the assessment. We thought after Irene that there might be some impetus for a really much more comprehensive thing. A&R took an interesting approach and applied for a huge whopping grant from the feds and didn't get it.
Wow.
So then they turned around and said, oh, okay, well, why don't you guys apply for much less money and see if you can get it? And so, of course, we did, and we did. So we've got stuff going on Wardsboro Brook and Winnaw River and the Green River just gearing up.
Oh, okay, the Green River,
In
yeah.
the process right now, halfway through, one on the north branch of the Deerfield. We got the funding before Irene. So.
Right. I remember that. I mean, what I'd say also is, I mean, the challenges for us going forward on that is, I think that the regulatory setting at the state for fluvial erosion hazard and the case law that would go with it and a variety of other things that would be of concern to us as a planning commission formulating zoning ordinance language is still really weak. So the legislature has had more than ample opportunity post-Irene to actually strengthen the commitment to fluvial erosion hazard as a requirement in zoning ordinances where it's mapped and in towns where it's mapped. And they declined to do that. So, you know, while the
graciously phrased.
While the state, you know, fiddles, you know, it makes life for towns implementing appropriate regulations much more difficult.
Yeah, okay.
And then, you know, and it doesn't resolve the kinds of disputes that were at the bottom of the voting down of the fluvial erosion hazard section of the ordinance, because there was all those kinds of things that were in play.
That's right.
And accentuated. And so with the state, I mean, basically, state is some distance away from the implementation of such an ordinance and even, you know, undertaking the research needed to support it. And I don't just mean the technical mapping thing. I mean the research and the legal standing of the language that you would use.
The political will, basically.
Well, I think the assumption that you should operate with is that there's zero political will, because that's what they've.
But we have a workshop coming up.
Yes.
They've clearly been given the opportunity to show more than zero in, you know, decimal increments, and it's not above zero. So
It's a shame.
yeah.
Thanks for the clarification there.
Yeah.
It's 10 to the double digits.
Right. You can go up several decimal places and you still don't find it.
All right. Well, again, this isn't your last bite of the apple, but should move on because I've overstayed my welcome here. So where might WRC be able to be of more assistance if something occurs to you? Let me know. I'll even try to find some cards and leave them here so that you don't have to bother your...
Well, your name's on the back of these.
We'll get you. We'll find you.
All right. Well, anyway, discussion of other local and regional issues and priorities. Are there other issues that we can help with or that we might be able to facilitate others helping with? And again, you know, if something occurs to you on your ride home tonight or as you're watching the basketball game, whatever might be going
Go
on.
Michigan.
Oh, is the men's tonight?
Yeah.
Because the women's is tomorrow.
Just let me know. All right, moving rather more rapidly along, Section 2, local planning needs discussion of town plan assessment and associated recommendations.
We did that.
Covered that one. Beauty. B, discussion of training needs of the municipality. Are there topics about which you'd like more information and training?
I think if we do, I don't want to speak for the rest of the commissioners here or the commissioners here, but I think if we did, it would come up through the work that we've set ourselves, and we'll let you know. It'd be pretty specific. It'd be pretty technical in
Yeah,
nature.
I think it could be useful for towns, for this one, and others, actually, to like for new board member training.
Actually, where
Yes.
it would do,
I mean,
yeah,
DRBs,
right.
planning commission,
Yep.
whatever. I think that
This is a
Having
request I
somebody
get
from-
almost every time.
Right. I think the training materials that VPIC provide are pretty good, but I think they're a little dated. And I think that we will have new DRB members and new planning commissioners come July, which is a little later than most towns due to our
Unique.
calendar. And so I think but at that point when we've got hopefully full board, a full DRB and a full planning commission, I think it would be good to have a joint training actually.
Even if it were a video, just to give people an idea of what they're getting into. I mean,
Yep.
text tends to get a little redundant because every week you're
Yep.
getting 40 pages of stuff.
But if you're right here in town and we can sit across the table from you, that would be
Well, I was going to
most
say,
welcome.
actually,
Yeah.
Yep.
what the funniest thing is that I get most often is a request, no, we know about training that we can get from VLCT, or we can go to the Town Officer Education Conference, or what we really want is someone to come out and sit at the table with us and
Right.
talk about stuff.
Right. I think the training package, that was delivered that in person would be good.
But
Well,
also everyone is a volunteer, and it's hard to get everyone in the room at the same time. And I mean, for the DRB specifically, if they have a bunch of things on their agenda, then you're asking for. I mean, it's some people have more time than others, I guess, but stuff that they would be able to do on their own to be able to. I mean, I know when I was on the DRB, the first 3 meetings, I was totally lost, and if there was something that I could quickly resource just to give me an idea of what I was getting into, or even to make a decision whether or not to do this, to be on a planning commission.
there's like a citizens collaborative over in New Hampshire or whatever,
Yes.
and they've posted some kind of online
Some really good
videos
stuff,
that
actually.
are short.
Yep. Like
How to read a
UTV
site
5-minute
plan,
thing.
how to read a
Right.
subdivision, what should you be looking for? That
I mean,
Yeah.
how to read a
Yeah.
site plan for the
DRB.
putting.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and then for people who are going to submit one to the DRB, maybe instead of having it be a bunch of text, we could go beyond the pretty pictures
Actually, we
and
could
say,
just put links. We could
Yeah.
embed the links to the YouTubes and the website actually.
That'd be great.
I also,
You know, I just had,
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I just had a thought. What about prospective members of the DRB
Right.
Planning Commission? I mean, an
I want to
overview.
scare them off.
Well, just
maybe-
an overview of what they
maybe
might be getting
some kind of a
into,
recruitment
and it might
approach would be
pique
good.
their interest.
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's right. That's right along the same line as what I was thinking, though. We had somehow had a little conversation about this in an indirect way at our last meeting, and I went away thinking about. I always said the DRB and Planning Commission should have a way to educate each other, and we've done some joint meetings that are mostly around getting feedback from them around things that they'd like to see clarified, or things that are wishy-washy or whatever. But I realized if I were to have gone on the DRB first without being here, I'd be lost. The zoning book is huge, and like you're saying, how do you approve all these things that are coming when you're brand new and you don't know anything about anything, and you have to kind of make these decisions. And yes, you have your senior members who are already there, but I really think there should be some requirement, and not to make it harder, because we have a difficult time sometimes getting people to volunteer for these boards, but there should be some kind of requirement for DRB people, whether it's to spend a year or 2 on the Planning Commission so that you're already involved in diving into zoning or whatever the process is, so you get a little. I mean, I only feel like now I could go and be on the DRB and I'd still be overwhelmed, but I have a better,
I think the alternate system is meant to respond to that. So there's 7 that sit, and then there's a bunch of alternates who are supposed to stand in if there's a reason why the 7 core members.
But that doesn't really address that. That just addresses numbers.
Well, when they're enthusiastic, they sort of sit on the sidelines and learn.
Listen, pay attention, even ask questions.
Right,
Just don't
and they're
cast
sitting at the
vote.
front. I mean, there is a level of involvement there that where they're not necessarily called on to make a vote, but they are engaged in the decision-making process. So,
Yeah.
and they get the packets and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there is
And other boards don't appreciate and utilize the staff as we do.
I was going to say, you noticed me pointing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I just,
You got 'em, use 'em.
there's an education
work.
process there that,
Yep.
I don't know what the steps would be.
Right.
It's a big, huge thing, and how do you get something like that
Okay.
implemented? But
We can talk to John about that some more.
yeah,
It's a
I
good
think
point.
that's something that really and needs some looking at. And when I've watched some DRB meetings, either in person or on BCTV, it just seems like some of the members are like, in the dust. They don't, and that's not just meant to be super critical, but it's just, I'm sitting there going, duh. Anyways,
And how would it be if you were super critical, Carolina?
no, I'm not even going to say that on camera.
Okay. Now,
Anyways, but I think it's sorely lacking training for there, and some requirements to be on that are a little different. Or whether the select board has a different criteria for picking or something, I have no idea.
Well, it's important work.
Yeah, it's very important work.
All right.
All righty, I'm going to try to be brief because I am now well over my
Yeah, sorry, we haven't probably helped that either.
That's all right. It's always a pleasure. So trying to, and again, one more time, this isn't your last bite of the apple. Something else occurs to you, please feel free to reach out. Town plan implementation. Discuss the town's local permitting. Are the bylaws up to date? Not remotely.
No. And no, they don't implement the plan.
And do they implement the plan?
But we're working on it.
Given the fact that your plan's only a month or so old,
Yeah, give us a little.
we'll cut you a little slack on this one. We'll be happy to help you, too, try and implement your plan. And then non-regulatory implementation priorities. And we touched on this a little bit in terms of trying to promote ag
Yeah.
viability and stuff. Other thoughts that occur to you folks? I mean, again, your plan is so new, we're not going to grade you on how well you've done implementing your non-regulatory priorities, but if there were thoughts that occurred to you that we could assist with, we'd be happy to.
How does the plan right now relate to what BAB is or will be doing? We talked a
We
little
don't
bit.
talk directly. We don't talk directly about BAD.
Or downtown organization?
We refer to downtown
Okay.
organization, the downtown organization.
Okay.
That is the downtown organizations
Yeah.
for the designated downtown. And there's discussion of the downtown in the land use, in particular the future land use sections of the plan. And there is a action step for a master plan to be developed for the downtown, which is not quite the same thing as the relationship with BAB, but it calls for the planning commission to work with stakeholders, which would include BAB, on developing a downtown master plan.
And if BAB were to not exist anymore,
There'd have to be a new organization
It'd
that
have
is
to be a downtown
Yeah.
district.
Yeah. For the designated district, we just received a new we reapplied and received downtown designation status. That runs 5 years.
okay.
It's a requirement of the downtown designation that there be a downtown organization, and that currently is BAB.
Yeah.
So if somehow something was to happen to BAB in the future, and I'm not saying that it would or could, but hypothetically, if something was to happen, then for us to maintain designation status, a new organization would have to be formed.
Okay.
Rod and Sue Inc.
No.
We are supportive of a downtown
Yes.
organization for the benefits
Right.
that it brings to the
Right.
property
Right.
owners,
Yeah.
including being able to access tax credits and rehab.
Right.
It channels money.
And there was a discussion in the process of preparing the downtown designation application of the boundaries of the designated district, and they stay the same right now, but that may be revisited with a view to expanding in at least one area, which is just to the sort of the northern end. So what I'd say is that the future of the downtown designation is, clearly in the minds of the select board and others, and so I think the planning commission is one of our steps, probably towards the end of the initial push to get a new zoning ordinance in place, will turn its attention to a master plan for the downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's about
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Always
Thanks for
glad
your
to
kind words on our
Yeah.
plan.
yes,
Yeah.
really.
And thanks for leaving us the copy. That's great. We'll have a look and figure out what we need to talk to you about.
And don't push too loud.
That's all right. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. That's great.
Some of it actually is substantive.
Okay. That's great. That's good. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.
Okay. See you later.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Okay, so the next order of business would be to approve the minutes of March 25th, 2013.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
We have a quorum, right? We can do all
Yeah, you
this.
can do this.
We don't have to do all of it if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Could reconsider
hearing no
how important it was.
discussion and no members of the public, then they can be approved.
We have to ask for the vote, don't we?
Yeah,
Do that. Casey, you're going to vote?
let's have a vote to approve the minutes. Anyone want to propose a motion?
They just
I did.
Okay.
Carolina moved it. Mark seconded it, so we just need to get a number.
All right, how about a vote? All in favor?
There you go.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
4-0.
Are there any announcements? Would you like
Just this for next week, right?
There's, yeah,
That's on
actually,
there.
what we're doing tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
yes, we're going to upside down, no, upstream,
Upstream
downstream.
downtown.
Downtown, okay, right.
Oh, that's right. Some of you were going to that,
It's
yeah.
a fluvial erosion and downtown.
Coastal thing.
When is the next webinar for that wildfire? I mean, I've already done
Oh.
Next webinar is
Wednesday afternoon. I've got the details. It's like 1 to 2:30 or something on Wednesday. Do you?
Yeah, you have to
I-
register.
Yeah, you do have to register. Otherwise, they can't hook you up to go to a meeting, which is their latest.
I only bring it up for the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took the first one.
Do you have the email, Rod? Because I would have, I can turn on my computer when I go back in there and try to find it.
I may have killed it. I wasn't that good for in mind.
If you have the time, though, it would be worth doing.
I'll send you a
Question.
blast, or I'll get Julia to do it tomorrow, just to the whole planning commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question on this. There was an email about the, on this same day, on the Wednesday of a breakfast meeting. And that's not on here, but is that something special, or should we come to that also?
You are invited to come. It'd be
Yes.
great if you'd come. It's, I know.
Like a working meeting, it said. I didn't quite.
It's a audience with the select board and
Oh, okay.
other town officials, so Barb will be there.
Key departmental heads, the town manager.
It's a good opportunity.
select-
Oh,
I think,
it's
for the
then so
planning
that they
commission
can
to
still
interact.
go on and do their workday.
Yeah.
Yep. And the intention is that we want to make sure that they're aware of the workshop and the contents of the workshop, and that they can,
Nothing back to the sleep.
yeah. no-
The other idea is that, some of the planning commissioners might not be able to make the full day.
Oh, so they
if
could
you
come
can-
then.
If you can come that morning, for that part too.
Right.
What are they serving for breakfast? Just kidding.
The select board.
Yogurt,
No, I'm sorry. did I just-
yogurt, probably yogurt, bagels, and fruit.
Yeah.
No homemade.
No,
omelette.
no omelets?
No protein.
No bacon.
No protein.
No
Right,
bacon.
protein.
Yeah, bacon.
Yogurt has
That's what
protein.
I'm not going.
Like
That's
yogurt.
true.
Bacon
It's
bits,
fine.
bacon bits.
Is it locally made?
It is locally.
It's definitely locally made yogurt.
Oh, I'm sure.
I propose that we deviate from the agenda to move the conservation subdivision exercise to our next meeting when there may be more members and we might all get more out of it.
Yeah.
Everybody?
Yes.
All right, then all those
Can we just go back up to the workshop? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, I don't think we've had any planning commissioners who've RSVP'd, so if you just let us know if you're going to be there
Yeah.
for the day. I mean, the evening is, the way it's kind of been structured is the evening is kind of the intro, and then the workshop's going to be the next day. Like I said, I know some of you might not be able to make the
Oh, I
day,
see.
but if you could
Just
make
let
the
us know.
evening and the
Be really
morning. But for those of you who are going to be there during the day,
I will be
it will be
there.
I'll be there.
worthwhile.
You want me to still call or email in?
Yeah,
No,
it's really-
if you're going to be there.
Yeah, we can
it's
take
okay.
that- we
I
can take-
Is it
So-
taken now?
yeah, we can get it now.
I'll be there. I
Okay.
don't know about breakfast.
I'll be there for a half day.
On the work of the workshop.
Which half?
Which
Yeah, the
half?
second half. The
second
one that
half.
you said.
We've kind of, because
Here's
there
the
was a
break.
lot of repetitiveness going on during the agenda, we've
Kind of culled it.
Yeah, we've kind of switched it around. So there's going to be breakout sessions in the morning and the afternoon.
Oh.
Oh, so I'll come to breakfast. I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't.
Okay.
What do you
You'll
think?
come to this one then.
If you can make the afternoon, I mean, if you whatever you can make.
I think you'd
would be
benefit
great.
from whatever you can manage, but it's up to you, you know.
In the
depends on what else
afternoon,
you
we're going to be doing a breakout session on the conservation subdivision and protecting natural resources, so
Oh.
it would be inappropriate.
And these guys
Yeah,
got
that-
back. I mean, one of the reasons why we're really excited about them coming is that a lot of their backgrounds and that stuff.
Okay.
Because
But-
they've been.
Yeah, I mean, the breakfast is good too, because that's
Wow.
the town.
Just let us know which bits you can make. You know, and we'll send you. We'll try and get you. We've been working with them on the agenda as recently
Okay.
as
No, no, no.
Friday, and they sent us a revised one today, and we haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but we
Just
we can
let
forward it
us
to you.
know.
Okay.
Usually it's Friday.
So, Mark, I'm sorry, I'm just making rough notes. So, you think you can make the breakfast, or
It looks like I should be able to make both. There's some grumblings about competition in town that may screw things up.
yeah?
Sorry.
Oh, that's a technical term.
Yeah. But
Is it good
yeah,
Ben and Jerry's ice cream?
yeah, probably both.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Oh, you said there's ice cream?
For lunch?
No, not there. No,
Yeah,
not there.
it's an all-protein
I'm
diet.
sidetracked.
The yogurt's first.
Yeah, that's right. Yogurt, and then for lunch we'll have ice cream, and then for
Lollipops?
afternoon tea we'll have Grafton cheese. Should be a really good day.
I'm there.
No, we don't have all that.
Yeah, really. All right, that's
Right.
good. So everything else is okay. I don't think we have any other announcements apart from the thing tomorrow, as well as the workshop next week.
Okay.
The Conway. Oh, actually, we do kind of. The Conway School will be in town
what's
next
this?
week. Also, they have a presentation at the
Oh.
co-op on Monday night, showcasing a range of projects that they have done in the region, as well as Brattleboro.
Oh, I thought they were discussing the mapping that they've been doing on the core arts. It's not that?
That will be mentioned. That'll be outlined briefly, but there'll be another community meeting where that team presents their work to the community later on in April. And so, yeah.
So this is on next Monday, the 15th?
Yep.
And where?
At the co-op in the community room.
Oh. I've been to
How big? is the
presentations
I
of
don't
their,
know. I hope it's big enough.
when their students do their projects and they give their presentations.
Okay.
They're amazing. They're just really amazing. And I went to, last year or the year before, we went at the end of the fall term. They have 3 semesters, and we went at the end of the first semester. And these are kids that just came, or people who just came and have done only 1 semester of landscape design school, and you would never know that by the quality of the presentations. It
Right.
was just outstanding.
Yeah. It's
I
very
mean,
strong.
they do all hands-on stuff. Anyways, that's what they're doing. It's a great program.
Yep.
I would imagine
And what time is that?
they're not in a big enough room.
I
don't
have a
think so
sneaking
either.
suspicion that might be a problem. I think it's 6:30, Caroline. I'll check for you if you're interested in going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in my calendar yet for some reason.
6:30. Yes.
Was that right? There you go.
All right. I'm entertaining motions to adjourn.
So moved. If we don't have anything else.
Nope.
Wow, all
All
right.
good.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
7:30. Aye.